the deal. And I heard 15, and I said to Sonny Perdue, our agricultural commissioner secretary, who was a good man, I said, Sonny, what was the damage? What was the damage that was done? He said about $28 billion. Came back a week later, he said $28 billion in damage that China did to the farmer, to the country, the farmers of our country. I said, $28 billion, well, we're gonna get it back. We're gonna get it back somehow. We got it back, and then I made a deal with China, and beyond the 28 billion, and I said, what's the number we want to get? Sir, you could get 15 billion. I said, well, let's ask for 50. Okay, they said, no, we said 15. So I said, no, I said 50. And then I was told that the farmers will not be able to produce that much. I said, they're not going to be able to produce that much. Number one, they're going to buy more land and they're going to buy bigger tractors. Remember that line? More land and bigger tractors, right? And it happened. You got to buy more land. Guys were going out there buying land, and they were buying bigger tractors, and even that wasn't enough. And you've done well, and you're still doing a little, you're doing okay. You know, the remnants, it's the remnants, because they're killing you in Washington. They're hurting you very badly, and they're not enforcing the deal that I'm in. Every week, I would say, is China living up to the deal? Yes, sir. Because, you know, they're supposed to buy 50 billion. I say, is China living up to the deal? And they'd go, they are, sir. And I would be very tough when they weren't. You know, when they got a little bit slow in buying, because they have Brazil and they have other places they can go. And I kept them living up to it, but nobody in this administration is asking that question. I guarantee you, nobody's saying, how's China doing? Are they living up to their deal? I don't think so. But we've done a great job for Iowa, and Iowa's done a great job for me. And we've had tremendous love here, and the guys I mentioned, and other people in the room who've been friends of mine for a long time, and we've really sort of grown up together in politics. And we had a tremendous 4 years, and we had a much more successful second election than our first election. In 2020, we got 12 million more votes. We got the most votes in the history of our country for a sitting president. If you look back into the history books, usually in the second term you get less votes. We got 12 million more votes than we got the first time. And when you think of it, it's a number that's unparalleled. It never happened before. Nothing like that. But as an example, Barack Hussein Obama got substantially less votes in his second term, and he won. We got more votes than anybody's ever gotten. We didn't win. Explain that.
No.
I can explain it, okay? The fake news doesn't want to listen to it, but that's all right. But we're going to do it, and we're going to do even better this time. I mean, our numbers are better now than they were even a couple before. And by the way, when we're finished, we'll take a couple of questions, and we'll do that. Because I see these politicians, they all don't want to take questions, you know? They walk in, they read a speech. See, here's my speech that I'm supposed to be reading right now. But I'm saying basically the same thing. It's good you have a good memory. You memorize it. But I don't have to memorize it because we did it. You know, there's nothing to memorize. We did it. We did USA Today. We did $28 billion into your pocket. We did things that nobody else has done. But it is funny, I'm looking at this, and I've covered most of it. One of the things that I will say is we had the strongest border in history. In history. And now you look at what's happening, and look at what's happening to our country, and we all have a heart, and we feel badly for people, but you look at what's going on, and I project, and I may be a little bit wrong on this, but I project, could be even low, but I say 15 million people by the end of the year will have come into this country. We have no idea where they're from. They are from mental institutions, they are from prisons, they're all over the place, and we have no idea who they are. They're just pouring into our country. We had a medical stoppage, as you know. We were able to stop them. They let that expire, which is shocking because anybody can come in. I have friends, they call me, they want to get it, they want an application for citizenship. I said, why don't you just go to the southern border? You have a lot of people that take it very seriously still. And they go and they study and they take tests and they, you know, to get in, it takes them years and years. And you have millions of people pouring into our country. But they're prisoners and they're people from mental institutions. They say, please don't use the word insane asylums, but they're from insane asylums. And we're going to be paying a big price. We're going to have to get them out. We're going to do it very fast. We're going to have no choice because these are very dangerous people that are coming into our country, and we have to do something about it. But there's never been a border like this in history. We had the strongest border, the safest border, the best border. We built hundreds of miles of wall. They like to say, oh, he didn't really build hundreds of miles because, you know, a lot of it was renovation. You know what the renovation was? There'd be a piece of wood laying on the ground for 40 years. And they'd say, that's not a new wall. We put up 35 feet into the air. That's not a new wall. That's not, you know, they'd see if there was anything. If it was, I saw, there was a piece of rotted steel. I mean, you couldn't even see that it was steel. And see what happened? Look what happened to my head. See? Somebody said, sir, could you sign this? And they handed me a nice Sharpie. That will be with me for about 2 weeks. I said, here it is, sir. Here's a Sharpie. And I'm looking, I said, what the hell happened there? And, it'll take about 2 minutes to get off if I get it off at all. But that's okay. I hope you liked your signature, though. But, so it's something that it's never happened to our country before. We were always a proud country, and we're not a proud country anymore. We're not a great country anymore, I have to say. And we'll be a great country again. We're going to be greater than ever. But we, right now, we're a laughing stock all over the world. Afghanistan was a disaster. The way we pulled, not the pullout. I was pulling out, and we were going to pull out with strength and with dignity. I dealt with the head of the Taliban. I got criticized very badly by the fake news, and he said, "Why are you doing that?" I told him the story about Jesse James, the bank robber. They said, "Jesse, why do you rob banks?" He said, "That's where the money is." I said, "That makes sense." Well, he asked me, "Why do I deal with the head of the Taliban?" Because that's the guy that was doing the killing. And in 18 months, he understood. It was a tough conversation, and in 18 months, we didn't have one soldier even shot at. And then we had the rig election, and then we had a problem where they took over and they did the most horrible thing. They moved the military out first. They were so afraid of our military. They were so afraid of our jets, and now they own those jets. And now they own 700,000 of the best rifles and guns and weapons, and they own 70,000 vehicles. Think of it. Take the largest used car lot in Iowa, the largest one. Take the largest one, you probably have 150 cars, 70,000 trucks, cars, vehicles, many of them armor-plated, many of them costing over $1 billion each, and they have that. The night goggles, they have the newest and the best, better than the ones we have, they're brand new. And so now they have the privilege of fighting at night. What we gave them is just insane. I said, I want to take every screw, every bolt, every nut, every piece of steel that put the hangers, sir, it's much cheaper just to leave it. I said, I want everything. I want everything out. I want the planes, and I want the tanks, and I want the jeeps. I want everything out. I want everything. And we were in the process of doing it. And then we had this crazy election result, and it was a disgrace. I mean, a disgrace. And look what happened to our country. In 5 years, just think of it, in a period, in 3 years, just think of it. In 3 years, the destruction that they've done. And 5 years ago, 4 years ago, even 3 years ago, because it took them a while to destroy it. But we had everything. We had the greatest economy in history. We had the greatest economy in the history of our world. Before COVID came in, there was never anything like it. And then I redid it again, gave them back a stock market that was higher than it was before COVID came in, and just higher. And nobody's ever seen anything like it. But we had the greatest economy in the history of our country, probably the greatest economy in the history of the world. If you remember, China was going to overtake us in 2018. That's from 20 years later. 2018. We were doubling up in China. We were beating them so badly, and I put the tariffs over. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars, and that's where I got you the 28 billion. I took it right out of there. And I said, thank you very much, China. We were doing a number, and then all of a sudden it changed. Now we're so weak on China. I heard today how weak we are in China. And China makes payments to the family of Joe Biden and to him. Now think of it. And we are so weak. They don't even respond to our phone calls anymore. They responded to me so fast. We had a very strong relationship with China, and they respected our country. They don't respect us anymore. I think nobody respects us anymore. We're a laughing stock. If you look at what's happening, all the people that died, far more than what they're reporting in Ukraine, and the cities are just being obliterated. They're coming in now. They're taking out Kyiv. If you take a look at the the missiles that are being shot over the last 2 days. I mean, how do you like to live there where missiles are being shot, right? You have no idea if you get hit. You're sitting in your living room and a missile comes in. You see the little kids going to school, but now they're hitting Kyiv. And it's just, it's so sad to see. That would have never happened. Zero chance. It didn't happen. Never talked about it, never even discussed. I discussed it with Putin. No, you can't do that. Don't do that, Vladimir. Don't do that. Very, very strong talk I had with him. But, and he always had his eye open for that, but he would have never done it if I was there. That whole thing would never be happening right now. It's been horrible. Would have never, and even the Democrats admit that. They say, no, we agree with that. It would not have happened if I was there. And with President Xi, it would have never happened what they're probably going to be doing in the not too distant future with Taiwan. That will never, I had a talk, I had almost the identical talk with both. And essentially I said, better not do it, better not do it. And Russia would never have done it, and China would never have done it. And let's see what happens with China. A lot of this was started by Afghanistan because it was so pathetic. I think it was the lowest point in the history of our country. What happened in Afghanistan, taking the soldiers out first. All you had to do is leave the soldiers, take out the American citizens. Many of them are there right now. You know that, you can imagine what's happening to them. But you take out the American citizens, you take out some of the people, you get everything, and you take the equipment. Don't forget, we lost 13 soldiers. We had many, nobody ever talks about this, many of our soldiers were absolutely decimated. They were so badly injured, so horribly that nobody ever mentions them. I mention them all the time because we had a lot of them really badly hurt. Missing legs and arms, and faces, just absolutely so bad, so horrible to even think about it. That all wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't have had inflation. We would be energy dominant right now, not independent. We would be energy dominant right now. Your energy you'd be paying $1.87 instead of $4, $5, $6. It's going way up, by the way. You watch. It's going to. Wait till you see what's going to happen. And then on top of it, you can't get electricity in half of our cities. And they want to go all electric. You have no choice. Some people want a car that goes for longer than an hour and a half.
Right.
Sit back and charge it for 4 hours. No, it's just crazy. And you know what? If you want an electric car, who cares? That's fine. That's fine. But a lot of people don't want that. A lot of people want to be able to drive forever. And then 10 minutes to the change on day one. That's going to all change on day one. Now they have a thing that they don't want gas stoves.
Grill ready grill. I love that.
Grill ready grill. Once you do that, you're going to stop the inflation because energy caused the inflation. Now it's got a mind of its own. You know, now it's just taken over. It's the food, it's everything. But ultimately, that caused everything. It's so big. It's so all evasive, and the energy costs. And look, we went from $1.87, and really lower than that at some points. We had, in fact, I had to get it up, or we would have lost the oil companies would have been out of business. I'm sorry to tell you that, but we had to actually get it up. I had calls with Putin and with the King of Saudi Arabia because it was so low. We were taking in so much. It was beautiful, but in a way, I said, you know, these guys, it's like a team owner. If you didn't have some restrictions, they would go out of business very quickly. We did a great job, but we were at $1.87. Everybody was happy. Greatest everything. We had the greatest job production. We had more jobs than we've ever had. If you were black or white or Asian or anything, everything was the best. If you had a diploma from Harvard, MIT, and the Wharton School of Finance, or if you didn't have a high school diploma, if you didn't graduate from high school, every single category, women, men, was doing the best they've ever done. And now our countries are laughing. I just want to thank the people of Iowa for the past 2 runs, and they were great, and we won by a lot. And this time we're up by much more than we were even the last time where we won by a lot. And I have been good to you, and I will be even better. We're gonna do a real job. And if you'd like, let's ask a couple of questions. Go ahead. Yes, sir, please.
Mr. President, before you came in, Matt Whitaker was speaking about how close we are to losing our constitutional republic.
Yeah.
Thanks to Senator McConnell and our own Senator Grassley, they were able to pull us back from the brink and allow you to appoint 3 judges and completely restructure the tenor of the Supreme Court. We can never give up our essential liberty, especially to the goodwill of bureaucrats. I'm a Second Amendment advocate.
Right.
The right to keep bear arms is the right to is the ultimate guarantor for all our others.
Yeah.
What would you say to those Second Amendment advocates who feel that your words on take the guns first and the due process later, due process is very important
Yeah.
already, and the bump stock debacle, which they were a novelty,
Right.
but there are principles involved. What do you say to them when they feel somewhat betrayed because they viewed you as a friend and you're a friend of the Second Amendment?
Well, I've been a great friend of the Second Amendment. You wouldn't really have a Second Amendment as we know it without me. I protected you, and literally, and it has not been easy. It has not been the easiest thing because it's, as you know, there's been a big change in the minds of some people. Even people that were advocates are less advocates now. And we are very pro Second Amendment. We have the NRA endorsement. We've had all of the endorsements from the people looking to protect the Second Amendment. No, I'm 100% for the Second Amendment. We have to have it. We have no choice. We have no choice. We have to have it. A lot of reasons. But I protected it. You know, when you have some of the events that take place, and then you always have a group going absolutely well. Not the easiest thing to do, and I protected it 100%. With no changes, with no anything, and you have to have a Second Amendment. And this country without it, I don't know what they do. You know, we have places other than like in Iowa, you have places where if you don't have it, it would be a disaster. It would be a travesty for death and safety. I mean, you'd have no safety, you'd have no anything. What would happen? You know, in a certain country, they were having tremendous crime, and they had very strong gun laws. You can't have guns, you can't have anything. And somebody got elected. He said, everybody go out buy guns. And they went, and their crime has gone down like tremendously. But when you look at Chicago and when you look at New York, they have the strongest gun laws anywhere in the world, and it has no impact. In Chicago, last weekend, they had 50 people shot and 12 died. With the strongest gun laws. I think Chicago probably has the strongest gun laws in the country. It's probably in the world. You basically can't have a gun. And they had 50 people shot and 12 people died. This is over one weekend. And that's a war. That's a war. No, I'm a very big Second Amendment person, as you know, and I think everybody that believes in the Second Amendment votes for me 100%. And they can rest assured nothing is going to happen to your Second Amendment. Okay? Please, yes, sir. Go ahead.
Mr. President, now that the Durham report has come out
Yeah.
and shows all of the abuses that the FBI and Justice Department
Yeah.
have, when you become president on day one, what are you going to do to restore the respect for the FBI and our law enforcement back into this country that it once had?
It's so fair a question, and you know, the FBI has, and you know, a lot of great people in the FBI, but the FBI has taken hits like in history like they haven't taken. And look, I'm a victim of it. They've come after me on many things, all debunked. The Mueller report, the fake dossier. How about the dossier which was written up by the Democrats? All fake stuff, and a disgusting thing. I had to go for a long time, and still we did more than just about any president in history with all of that stuff on my shoulders. They tell me, oh, I was a Russian agent. Okay, I was a Russian agent. I used to say, first I thought they were kidding. When I heard that, I said, you know, that's so fun. I didn't know what the hell, I hadn't even spoken to anybody in Russia. You know, they went through 5 million phone calls, and I didn't make one call to Russia. That was a little bit, but they didn't announce that. They didn't talk about that. No, we have a very, very corrupt system, and it's got to be, and we need from the top, we need great people. We need heads of the FBI. We need heads of the top people at the Department of Justice. This is years and years of entrenchment. Years and years of radicalism. It's really radicalism, and it's putting our country in great danger. I mean, I'm fighting them all the time, and I think one of the reasons I'm doing so is because I've really fought them successfully, and we were making tremendous problems. But this is numerous presidents, long-term. People are embedded in those positions, and they hate us. They hate our values. They hate what we stand for, and it's a very important question. We were doing big things, but we're going to do very big things. Yeah, very important. Because they're really taking away your liberty. And they're taking away your elections, actually. They didn't want to look at the elections. They helped with the elections. I mean, think of it. The FBI colluded with Facebook.
Right.
And with Twitter, think of it, the FBI colluded with Facebook and Twitter. Well, that's like stuffing the ballot box. And speaking of stuffing the ballot box, if you look at True the Vote, which is a fantastic organization of predominantly women that are incredible patriots that went around, they have hundreds of thousands of votes on camera. And the judges are afraid to do something. I don't know what it is with the judges, but they're afraid. You have hundreds of thousands, millions actually, but hundreds of thousands of votes on camera where they're looking at the camera, and they're government cameras, where the camera's pointed at a lockbox. Some of those cameras have been, gone, but didn't matter that much because they have so many, they have millions of votes literally. And nobody wants to look where they're stuffing the ballot boxes, where a person comes in, looks around, goes in, puts it, and then I think one person stopped at 28 different sites, 7 or 8 votes each, but they had hundreds of them and thousands of them. If we don't have free and just free, clear, fair elections, and if we don't have strong borders, we don't have a country. I mean, think of those two things. We need elections. They have to be free, and they have to be. There was a poll: 78% of the people feel the election was rigged. You can't have a country that's going to be rigging an election, and you can't have people even thinking that. And the other thing is you need borders. You need borders. We don't have any borders. We had a really strong border 3 years ago. And that border also stopped drugs from coming in.
Right.
It's 12
That's right.
times, think of it, 12 times more drugs coming in than 3 years ago. Okay? 12 times. Who ever heard of a number like that? And we're losing hundreds of thousands of people, destroying families. The drugs are just pouring in. Fentanyl is pouring in. I had a deal with President Xi. He was going to make it illegal to produce fentanyl in China, and that would be the death penalty. In China, they have the death penalty. I said to President Xi, do you have any drug problem? He looked at me like kind of a question. Of course we don't. They have the death penalty. They call it a quick trial. If somebody's selling drugs, they have a quick trial, and they execute the people. And it's a terrible thing when you think about it, but when you really think about it, the average drug dealer, I just saw a statistic, the average drug dealer in this country kills 500 people over a lifetime. 500 people. So when you look at that, and China has no problem, the countries with the death penalty, they're the only ones that don't have a problem with drugs. The only ones that don't. Singapore has a very strong death penalty. If you sell drugs, if you're a dealer, if you sell drugs, you get the death penalty. And people say, let's go someplace else. Let's go to the U.S. and do it, where they don't even do anything here. They don't even do anything. And until you get smart, you're going to have a tremendous problem. But I had it so that President Xi was going to give the death penalty to people that made fentanyl and sold it into the U.S. But once I wasn't there, that deal died very quickly. He had no choice but to do it too. We were very, very strong. We have a lot of power over China. People don't realize it, but we have tremendous power over China, but they don't use the power. They don't know how to. I don't even think they think we have the power. We have tremendous power over China. Yes, sir, in the back. With that beautiful cowboy hat.
Okay.
I want to get one of them. I want to.
Great to see you again.
Thank you.
It was great addressing you March 13th in Davenport.
Yes.
I'm curious, how long do you foresee it taking for you, after being reelected for the 3rd time, to bring our country back in order?
Yeah.
And also, this idea, America, there's freedom and justice for all. We need justice for people that have been in prison since January 6th.
Yeah.
If you look at Antifa and BLM and all this where they killed people in Portland and in Seattle and a lot of other places, Minneapolis, nothing happens to these people.
Exactly.
And then you look at what they've done to the January 6th people. They've destroyed them and destroyed their lives. And a lot of them didn't even go into the building.
Right.
It was a disgrace. What's going on? That is a disgrace. That's going to go down in history ultimately. And Ashley Babbitt was killed, shot by, in my opinion, a rogue cop. He had no business doing that. He shot her, unarmed. And actually, people say she was trying to hold back the people that were pushing her forward. Ashley Babbitt was the one that was killed. She was the one that was killed. And they like to say 5 people. That the truth is, and there happened to be somebody else also in addition to Ashley. But Ashley Babbitt was a big supporter of everybody in this room, and by every account, she was an incredible person and a great patriot. And he shot her just like he had no problem. And then they wanted to shield him, right? They wanted to And he ends up on NBC, being interviewed on NBC, because he was so proud of himself. He thought he was a big shot. And they ought to look at his past record, by the way. Take a look at his past record.
And by the way, thank you for giving us Governor Kim Reynolds for governor of Iowa.
I hate to say it, without me, he was not going to win. You know that, right? I gave you a couple of them. Without me, they wouldn't have won. I gave you some good people. You had some good people here. But as far as the time, it's a great question, because I've been watching DeSantis go out and say, I've got 8 years. It's going to be 8 years. Let me tell you something. Right there, you should vote against it. It'll take me 6 months to have it totally the way it was. It's getting criminals out of our country that have been allowed to come in so freely. We're going to get them out. ICE, we're going to double up on ICE and the Border Patrol. They're incredible people. Brandon Judd and Tom Holman and some people that we have are phenomenal people. But they don't use the good ones. They use very liberal, very radical left people. And I think it's hard to believe. You know, I did hundreds of miles of wall. Then I said, you know, we should do more. What do you think? And they gave me other locations. We were going to add another 200 miles to it. We started, would have been done within a few weeks. And the stuff was all there. They actually lifted it up and took it where Texas and Arizona can't get it. Can you believe it? Instead of saying, you guys put it up yourself, at least. But they didn't want it up. That's when I said, these guys actually believe in open borders. Who can believe in an open border? But when I heard DeSantis go out and say, and talk about 8 years, we need 8 years. You don't need 8 years, you need 6 months. We can turn this thing around so quickly. If you need 8 years, who the hell wants to wait 8 years? Fully turned around. We'll be drilling and we'll be doing a lot of things. We'll be energy independent in 6 months. We'll be able to do that in 6 months. Don't forget, I filled up the national reserves. I did a lot of things at very cheap prices. Congress held me back, actually.
Yes.
But we had a deal where I was going to fill it up for nothing, you know, when the oil was down so low, because we had so much of it. We have more liquid gold under our feet than Saudi Arabia and Russia. Think of it. We have more than any other country. We were going to double up on them. We were not only going to be dominant, we were going to be beyond dominant. We were going to be bigger than Russia and Saudi Arabia times 2. We were going to make a fortune with energy. We were going to start paying off debt and further reducing taxes. It was so beautiful. It was working so great. And then they just shut it all down. So a shame. But it's not 8 years, it's 6 months. And we'll be back. We'll be back in business, and sooner than that. And we'll be back in business, and those tractors are going to be spending a lot less money for their energy. And the food prices are going to start coming down, and a lot of things are going to start coming down, and it'll be a beautiful thing to watch. It's going to happen very quickly. And I'm very experienced now. You know, it's not like I'm going in and say, it is a nice office. Is this the Oval Office? It takes you about a year to sort of say, can you believe this? This is the Oval Office. I won't have to say that. We're going to do it very quickly. And I think within 6 months, you're going to see a major part of the comeback. Not 8 years. He'll stop saying that, watch. He's going to stop saying that. Because if he needs 8 years to turn it around, he's saying, well, I'm going to, you know, I can be, let me tell you, I'll go 4 years, and if I do a great job, we're gonna have a great Republican, somebody.
You have
It's gonna go another
right.
4 years or 8 years, so it doesn't make any difference. But when he says 8 years, every time I hear it, I wince, because I say, if it takes 8 years to turn this around, then you don't want him. You don't want him as your president. You ought to go to the 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th guys, but they're usually probably gonna pay 100%.
Sir, you're hired.
Okay.
Hi, President Trump. I just graduated high school 2 weeks ago. Thank you. And so my question for you is, since your last term in office, there have been a lot of attacks on education in terms of censorship and all of that. So I was wondering what your thoughts were on parental control and that kind of thing within school choice, and all of that. Education is very important to me, so wanted to hear your thoughts on that. Thank
Big,
you.
very good question. Congratulations, by the way. Were you a good student?
I think I was.
Okay, just-
She just got a $180,000 scholarship, but Naval scholarship to go to Yale.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Very nice. Congratulations. Very big on school choice. Can you imagine we even have to talk about parental control and having parents get involved. We have school systems that don't even want to talk to the parents about their children. And you talk about changing gender and things where the child can make a choice and the child can be unbelievably young. The country has gone sick. It's gone sick. And I don't like the term woke because I hear woke, it's like this a term that use half the people can't even define it, they don't know what it is. But you look at these things like women getting, competed with, men that were men and are men, and they're out there swimming and setting records. You see the records that are being broken? The records that lasted for 19 years are being broken by, 30 seconds. They're trying to win by a 16th of a second in swimming on one of the events. A 16th of a second they're trying to win for years. And a guy comes along and breaks the record by, numbers that will never be broken again, unless you have another guy come along and then you'll probably have it broken. The whole thing is crazy. I'm not a fan of LeBron James, but I said, if I were the coach of the women's basketball team, I would have the greatest team. I'd say, LeBron, would you like to become a woman? And I go to another 4 or 5 big guys and I say, we will be undefeated for many, many years. There will never be anything like it. I'll go down as the greatest coach in history. They'll say I was the greatest ever. No, it's so crazy. And that's all woke. That's all, I guess they define that as woke, but that's all woke. We have to bring common sense back into the country. People say, you're conservative. I said, yeah, I'm conservative. But more important is I'm a person with common sense. And so are the people in this room. Our country needs common sense back in leadership. We had great common sense for 4 years, and we produced the greatest economy ever. I rebuilt our military. The 85 billion was massive, but it was just a small portion of what we rebuilt. It was a massive amount, but a small portion. But when you look at what we did at the border, when you look at what we did in every single aspect, even right to try, where we had for 58 years they've been trying to get this, where we have very far-reaching drugs that were good, but they're not approved by the FDA, and somebody's terminally ill. And we couldn't get the drugs. They go to Asia, or if they're poor, they just go home and they die. They have no hope. But they go to Europe, they go all over the world looking for something, and I signed a bill, very hard to get, actually very complicated, because the drug companies didn't want it, the labs didn't want it, the doctors didn't want it, because, they thought they had liability. I signed a non-liability clause, I got it approved, and everybody's happy. We've saved, with Right to Try, we've saved thousands and thousands of lives of people that are terminally ill. And people would say, well, we can't do that because they may die. I said, they're gonna die anyway. And yet they were in there for close to 60 years now trying to get that approved, and I got it approved through Congress. I got it approved. You had to go through Congress on that one, and we're saving lives, tremendous numbers of lives. I'm very proud of that one, Right to Try. It sounds easy. You'd think it would be easy to get it approved, actually, but it was very, very tough. Gone for many, many years. I took care of the vets better than anybody. We had a 92% approval rating, and now it's going way down. But we had a lot of bad people in the VA, and you weren't able to fire them because of civil service and various other reasons. And I got that taken care of, and we let go of 9,000 really bad people. And I also, people were waiting in line for literally months. And some people were becoming terminally ill because they couldn't get something taken care of early. And I said, you wait in line, and you have to wait in line for more than 24 hours. You go outside to a private doctor, we pay the bill, and you get yourself taken care of. We went up to it, and it actually saved money, as opposed to you think it cost. It actually saved a lot of money. But when you think of it, we did things that nobody's ever done. With the VA, we had a 92% approval rating. Nobody has ever been, we were 36 points higher than previous. So we're very proud of what we did for the vets and what we did for the military and what we did for the farmers. So I want to thank everybody for being here, and we have a nasty race ahead of us because, we have the communists, the Marxists, the fascists after us. We have a lot of bad people after us. We have a lot of very bad people in this country. Fortunately, we have mostly great people in this country, and really, the people in this room, right from the beginning, we struck a chord. I didn't even have to work too hard with that. I worked hard once I got into office to produce all the things I said. But we'll do that again, and we'll do it in spades. We're going to do a great job for the farmers, the manufacturers, but we're going to do a great job for your state. And I just want to thank you for your support. You've been incredible, and for your leadership. We people have been amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you for all you've done.